In three, two, one. Well, we are celebrating Mother's Day. And if you're thinking we are like some commercial venture trying to expand the marketing to a month, no, today is actually Mother's Day for millions of people. So we have today three of the most amazing mothers whose drive and success comes directly from wanting to put their children first. So let's get to it.
Empowering women on a global scale. Welcome to Powerful Women Today with Carolina Billings. Powerful Women Today is on a mission of inclusion, rewriting his story to include her story, and empowering, raising, and amplifying women's voices with professional speaking, publishing, original podcasting, and web TV. And now here's your host, the founder of Powerful Women Today, Carolina Billings.
Welcome, ladies. In putting today's panel, funny thing, truth be spoken, of all the mom stories that I know, and I know so many beautiful, wonderful moms, two of the most powerful stories I know are Gina's and Miriam's. And it just happened, honestly, it just happened by chance that the three of us are Latin descent. So it's got, that Latin lioness mom happening. And, it just happens also that the three of us are celebrating Mother's Day today. So it's a very special day. So Gina, if you could please lead the charge, introduce yourself, and then Miriam, please.
So thank you, Carolina. I'm so glad we're here and having this topic of conversation. I think it's just so important. I am Gina De Leon. I am a transformation strategist and lifestyle coach. I'm really all about empowering women. I want to help them regain their confidence, reclaim their identity so they can live a life with purpose. And that's really what I'm all about. And I'm just thrilled to be here.
Just that, any given Wednesday. We're just changing the world. Miriam, you are one powerful lady and powerful mom. Please tell us who you are, and then we'll get into how our children made us succeed.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Carolina, for having me. It's a pleasure to be with you and spending this evening with you, Gina and Carolina, together. I am a success and mindset coach. I was mentored and trained by Bob Proctor, and I help female entrepreneurs to multiply their income by applying those powerful mindset techniques so they can really live a life in freedom and a fulfilled and enriched life around their business.
That is wonderful. And we often think, I know in corporate that being a mom is something that up until recently, still to this day, is considered, I'm not going to say as harsh as a liability, but it's definitely a point of consideration when it comes to promotions, when it comes to putting in the hours, doing what it takes at the executive level to keep going up the ranks. So, especially whether you're a new mom or still mom with young kids, it's still a stigma. And within entrepreneurship, I know many career women that cringe at the word of mompreneur. In just even today, I was just going through my feed on LinkedIn, and there was, this lovely lady, and she's doing amazing and got great feedback. But she's specifically saying, the caption reads, "I am a female CEO," and she's crossed out female. "I am a CEO." Well, as empowered a woman as I know I am, I have to tell you, the requirements of a woman CEO and a man CEO are different. And we can begin our discussion there. In your experience, what have been some of the greatest differences that you've observed firsthand in your corporate experience or entrepreneurial experience, cannot speak today, between our male counterparts who do a great job. This is not about putting anyone down. This is about calling a spade a spade. So what are some of the challenges that you see women A, not calling them, and B, you know, deep inside is a little bit of something that holds us back?
Mhm. I, if you want, I can answer this real quick about my experience that I had. Um, I was in corporate for a very long time, and I still am, and I would watch those male coworkers or colleagues always succeed before me. Why? I don't really know. I assume it had something to do because they were male and I was female, but I was doing an extremely good job. I was taking on different projects. I got told, okay, if you take on this project, you will get this promotion. If you take on that project, you will get the promotion. And I can tell you, I took every single project that I was able to get because I wanted to move along. I wanted to climb up the ladder, and I am very ambitious and very determined. So even though it required a lot of time, a lot of extra hours, working weekends, I did it all. And every single time when it came to getting that promotion, I had to listen that we don't have the budget right now. And then later, maybe 2 weeks later, I found out that they had the budget to promote a gentleman that already was in a manager position and then got a senior position, where probably the budget was more what they spent to promote him than what they would have needed to promote me. So this was something very encouraging for me because I had to see that the work that I did was not really acknowledged,
Mm.
and it hurt a lot. And I knew that it was a great work because they told me that they were really appreciative of it, right? So
Thank you, Miriam, for all the extra work and effort and caring that you do. But and if anybody that is listening to us and thinks, oh, these are just three hens going at it, right? You know what? Yes, progress is being made. But you know what? The reality is that we're still not at par. We're still not at par, not just in compensation, but we're not at par on opportunities for advancement. Once people know that we have other priorities, other
Yes.
priorities that if the last 3 years have not clarified things for everyone, that's kind of what matters, right? There's someone said you're always going to be juggling. One of my coaches, and pardon that I don't quite remember who said it, but it was a mentor and a coach that said it. You're always going to be juggling balls in the air, right? You
Mhm.
simply got to know which ones are fragile enough that if broken cannot be mended. You got to know which ones you can afford to drop. In your
Exactly.
family and your children are not one of them, at least not for me. So, Gina, you have a very, very powerful story. You're a
Yeah.
great mom. And so tell us how being a mom was still to this day, because we collaborate a lot. Still to
Exactly.
this day is a drive for you to succeed.
For me, it's a huge drive, and I see it now. My son is now 19, and I'm so proud of him. And that's, I think, the number one thing. I was a full-time mom. I actually, when I decided when I got pregnant that I was able, my husband did well economically. I said, I'm going to be able to be a stay-at-home mom. I loved it. Unbeknownst to me, after a year of staying at home, I realized that I wasn't the stay-at-home mom type. So as much, and this is, I think, something that's really important and crucial to understand for both men and women. I dislike so much to be categorized because I'm the woman of the house. I'm the one who's supposed to stay at home with the kids.
Mhm.
We're still
And we do
so
come
many of
from
that
that
community.
cultural tradition
That's that
to
cultural
some
tradition,
degree.
which you see in many, many, many communities,
In many
Asian
cultures.
communities,
Yeah, not
many
just
cultures.
ours. Yeah.
Yes. So that for me was a big starter. How
Mhm.
I actually came back into full force into the workforce was because my husband at the time lost his job.
Mhm.
And guess who had to come in and step in
That's right.
and bring home the bacon? But
Mhm.
here's the thing. One of the challenges for women is to separate themselves
Mm.
of, okay, if you're bringing home the bacon, do you also have to cook it?
Great metaphor with the bacon and the cooking. Yes.
So again, we go back into this old style, the way we most of us think, because we do it ourselves.
Mhm.
I can admit for myself, I was doing it to myself. I was trying to do everything. I was trying to be the homemaker, the wife, the mom, going
Mhm.
home. I was exhausted, but I
Mhm.
kept doing it. Um, and this is something really important that I think I stress so much for women out there. You can have it all,
Mhm.
like you mentioned, you're going to be juggling, multitasking women, you're going to be multitasking. You
Mhm.
will have to do sometimes some globes will fall to the floor. You have to decide which ones are you okay with.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
asking for help is not weakness. In fact, it's strength. It's strength in knowing, hey, you know what? I need
Mhm.
help. And this is
Exactly.
not all on me, right?
And you touch on something very important. Not only should you be asking help for your husband, but I have seen so many women when I've coached and trained so many women in indirect sales. It's like, it's just, I'm just really busy. I don't have the time to make this work. I have kids. And then I go and ask the second, well, how old are your kids? And they're 13, 15, 16. And they're like, and
45.
so it's like, okay, well, how about getting your family involved and they can help you with the laundry, with folding, with putting away. But that takes effort on your part to letting them know what is your dream. How do
You
you
know,
want to get that started?
Gina, I'm loving the fact that you are truly speaking truth to power, and that being women, right? You're acknowledging the fact that, hey, not everyone's meant to stay at home. And sometimes you can be a greater mom, but by going to work and providing in other ways, loving the fact that, you know, you're right. We do bring it on ourselves,
Mhm.
many of the times by not setting the right boundaries, by not asking, by making it, is us do or die, and we keep giving and giving and giving, and that's not healthy. It's non-sustainable and it's not healthy. I do want to acknowledge we have quite a you ladies, you got quite a bit of fan mail. We got somebody welcoming and acknowledging Miriam, celebrating Miriam, and so
Thank
you
you,
should.
Danielle.
We got, of course,
Oh,
our colleague
Jesus.
Yusuf,
Yes.
also who's has great experience within our community, celebrating Mother's Day. And oh, they're saying hello to each other. And we got another one of our colleagues, Liz Wendling, who does a fabulous job teaching women how to sell professional services and how to build the confidence to know your value, right? And yes, the pointing out fingers, but rather about understanding each other. Yes, and the thing is, like you said, Gina, we can have it all, but maybe not at the same time, and maybe
Mhm.
not by our very own doing.
Yeah.
So I'm going to turn to Miriam. Miriam, you have one of the most powerful, no wonder you're a mindset coach, mindset and transformation. Because that's the thing. We, and I speak for all of our colleagues at Powerful Women today, we are people who live our legacy. I've
Mhm.
yet to meet someone that's not like, that's not a true believer within their modality, that's not living it either right now or the practices as a result of. So, Miriam, if you feel comfortable, would you share your story of how being a mom drives your world? Because it's something
Mhm.
I wish for the world to hear.
Yeah. So I have a daughter. She's about to turn 5, and she is actually the reason why I'm doing what I do. because the experience that I had with her was was a key factor for me. She was born very early with 27 weeks, which is about 5 months and 3 weeks. Was teeny tiny. The doctors, they painted her future very dark. We spent 6 months in an NICU, and on month 4, they gave her wrong medicine. It burned her mouth, burned her esophagus. So not only that she was teeny tiny, now we also had to go for a feeding tube. And all of a sudden, I was that special needs mom. And obviously, I was devastated. But at some point, it was like somebody turns the switch on, right? And I said, "What are you doing here? You know how this works. I have been into mindset and how the mind works, what you can do for years. So I knew exactly what I had to do. And I worked with her. I worked on myself, and it took me a while. It took 4 years, but we got her off the tube. She's completely normal developed. She goes to normal school. And last year in September, she even skipped a class because she's so smart. And she's about to turn 5, talks like a teenager today. So it was a key moment for me. But I do what I do also because of how I grew up, right? And this also has to do with what Gina just said, that she put herself in that box. Basically, she thought, okay, I'm working and I have to bring the baking home, but do I also have to make it? I
And
think
clean
so.
the kitchen after too. Like, let's not go
Exactly.
all the way. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that not I think, I actually know that this has to do with our programming. Now, we are 3 women. We come from a Hispanic culture. We have our role models. We grew up like that. And we are a product of our environment. So depending on how we were raised, and we all 3, I'm sure, were raised that a woman belongs to the kitchen and not full-time job. A woman needs to take care of the babies. So there's that guilt that comes up whenever we go into full-time. And then in Gina's case, whenever she was in full-time, she also thought she would have to cook the bacon because this was her role. And it's how we were raised. So what I'm trying to do is I really want to raise my daughter differently. I want to show her that she can do it all, that it's not about those role models anymore. It's about, what do you feel? What do you want to do? Follow your intuition. A lot of us, we have a calling and we just don't follow it. And we really should follow our calling and see that we're living in 2023 now. We should open our mind and forget about those old programs that we carry around from years, you know.
That third shift, right? That you're working full time and you're going to take care of the kids and take care of the house. And, I still remember, when my son was younger, that a couple of things. One, the whole competitive sports, right? I remember when he was first being signed up, that my saying, I don't think it's a good idea, right? Like looking at the schedule. And I remember his dad saying, "Oh, don't worry about it. I'll take care of it." It's like, okay, who drove around every arena and every pitch and every whatever diamond, around the city. And I don't begrudge it. But the thing is exactly what you just said. I would also feel guilty if the house was not, up par, if somebody came over. Meanwhile, I'm working an executive job. I am, you know, trying to keep up with, and I only had one. And, imagine the people that have like 2 or 3 kids and still, being able to do it all. And I have to tell you, I always felt not so much a failure, but I always felt that I was letting something down or someone down at all times, and it's not about victimhood. It's really masochism, if you want to call it, because it's all self-driven. It's all the mindset. But I was having a conversation recently with a gentleman who's a fabulous, fabulous gentleman, and he was saying how he came about to being an entrepreneur, that he had these kind of like spiritual awakening, or this like just inner awakening, and that he became the voice that kind of pushes him forward, right? Or pulls him forward.
Mhm.
And he said, do you have such voice? Right? We were just in discovery call. And I said, you know what? Honestly, because I was the person that decided that after 20 years of marriage, it just was not working for me at a human level, right? And I decided to begin to pursue the rest of my life. And it wasn't that anybody was right or wrong. We were just not right together. And so for me, failure was never an option. It was this huge sense of responsibility. Like I have to do right. All of this suffering, all of this pain. Because the family that is, it's not that everything was peachy witchy and I was just the one that, I just don't think I'm happy anymore. The entire dynamic was not working for really nobody. And but I was the one that decided, you know what? It whatever my life has come to hasn't come to this, right? And and it's that sense of responsibility that I had to succeed. I had to succeed because I am responsible to this child, right? Who's this year's going to be 27, so he's not a child. But you know what I mean. At the time, he was a youngster, and when I listen to us, that drive. Like I remember the first conversation that I had with Miriam. She said to me, "My child was going to be fine." I set it in my mindset that I would do whatever it took. She will go to normal school. She will grow up like a normal little girl. It was decided,
Mhm.
you know.
It is the
And
decision you make, all the decisions that you make, which come from that burning desire, they really move all the resources in the background, in the unseen around and make it happen so that you really can meet all the people that you need to meet, and you get to encounter those opportunities that you need in order to make it happen.
and
It's like
trust.
putting blinders on, right? And
That's right. And trust that you're doing this for a greater cause than yourself.
Yeah, I
And
have to.
and you're willing to do it all. And I love what you said, Miriam, that it was like a switch went on. Because I have
Mhm.
to tell you, you both are beautiful Hispanic ladies. I've spent most of my time in Toronto, in Canada, most of my adult life. And so much so that friends often tease me that, I'm Latina light, right? Like it only comes out at certain times. But however, during past government administrations in the United States, when our people got called vermin, and the places that we come from, you know I'm not even going to repeat it. It's like a switch goes on, and it's like, you know what, I'm reclaiming my life through my heritage, because we are the face off, right?
Mhm.
And in the humanitarian crisis that is occurring at the border, you see all these people bringing their children and trying to do whatever it takes to bring a better life for them. And we forget, right? We forget all the blessings we've got. Although we've all, because we've got quite the stories, and we have two upcoming events, and I know this sounds awful for me to inject it there. But we do have an event coming up that is called My Power, My Story, My Legacy. And it's worth knowing, because you know what? We meet people every day, but we don't know. We don't know what courage is taken to get to the here and now. And also Miriam has an upcoming success by design, if I recall the exact name. Pardon me if I'm not recalling the exact name. But it's all about that.
Mhm.
It's about the power of women and the power of and also our allies. Of course, Yusuf is here, and we do have, gentlemen allies, because you don't do it in a vacuum, for starters, right?
Mhm.
One way or another, we're leaning onto each other, we're leaning onto our partners and families. But most of all, I think we're leaning onto that conviction that, our children come above and beyond all. And I'm not saying people that don't have kids don't have the same experience, Of course they do. I know many competitive people. I know many driven women. I know many successful women who sacrifice a lot, right? But we
Well,
are celebrating Mother's Day. So
so
we
I
are
wanted to actually
please seeing it through that
talk
lens.
into this one about the sacrifice.
Mhm.
As you know, Carolina, my huge sacrifice in taking on the corporate job and moving to the US, the idea was my husband and son were going to follow. My husband decided not to follow. After a year that I had been setting it up, working 12, 14-hour days, 7 days a week, he decided not to follow. My son decided to stay with him. He still didn't have a job. I was still bringing home the bacon. For me, as a mom, that was a huge guilt trip. Here I am doing my duty because
Mhm.
at the end of the day, my income was able to put him through, finished his private school, and all of these, the opportunity of going to Germany and study for a year. Why did I feel guilty? Because I wasn't there. I mean, every time as a
Mm.
mom, when you talk about your daughter being sick and everything you had to, every time I heard he was sick and I wasn't, it was like, oh,
Mhm.
yeah. And now that I have him here with me, because things happen, life changes, and
Mhm.
now he's here with me. Yay. And it was one of those things that I said to him, I said, honey, I am so sorry. I felt the need to apologize and to get that out. And he said, you know what, mom? I was angry at you, but I have to say, and this is what's really important. I really want those mompreneurs out there to listen. He said to me, Mom, the hardest thing for me is you were a full-time mom, meaning you did everything for me, too much. And
Mm.
then all of a sudden, you were gone. You were not there doing things for me. That was what was hard for him. So we do a disservice as moms to do everything for our kids. We
Yeah.
need to allow them to understand, if we're mompreneurs particularly, get them involved in your business because
Mhm.
they will understand the sacrifices that you make throughout the time, how they're going to be helped, and you're teaching them lessons
Mhm.
that they're going to take with them in the future. So um, I just had to, share that part of it because I remember I lived with guilt with so many years, and I come to find out my son is like, you know what, mom, I totally get it. I respect you, and I admire, what you've done. To
Oh.
hear those words, well, my first book, I dedicated it to him,
Mhm.
and to be able to have that and to show that, to share that with him, and for him to see the challenges that we go through as a mom. But we have to be careful as moms. The best thing sometimes what we can do is not do everything for them, give them the space to grow.
Now, your mindset, and I do believe, like anybody out there that wants anything transformation related or done, you got to connect with Gina and with Miriam because these two ladies can make anything happen. I have to tell you. And so, Miriam, you work a lot with mindset and with really setting your own course in making it happen.
Mm.
So what are some areas that you feel women can begin, right, to take strides? Or what is something that like you said, it's a switch. And I know we cannot turn a switch for someone else, but if
Mhm.
anybody's feeling all these feelings that we've talked about, right?
Mhm.
What's a good place to start?
A good place to start is always confidence and self-worth.
Mm.
Because a lot of times, what I see in women is that a lot of times we don't give ourselves enough credit.
Mm,
We doubt ourselves if we could do that because we're a woman,
mhm,
right? And then we think we're not worthy of having that success. What happens if I'm more successful than my husband? I'm sorry, baby. Wait a second. mom.
Yeah, of course. And we discussed that. And I said, this is exactly the point. This is exactly what we do. If you need to take care of her, we'll cover you until you come back.
My husband already got her.
Okay.
That's
See?
fine.
No.
But
Yes.
Exactly. Good girl. So you were
yeah,
saying, I'm sorry I interrupted, is the mindset, the deciding
it's a
that
decision. It's that also what you think about yourself, right? So we feel again guilty if we would be more successful than our husband.
mm,
We feel guilty that we don't spend so much time with them. Like full-time moms, they have a successful husband, and she is a full-time stay-at-home mom. So the best way to start is really that confident. I deserve to be successful.
mm,
I am worthy. I deserve to go after my goals, after what I like. If somebody has a calling, like what you described, Carolina, that you felt like there was a voice telling you.
mhm.
So if we have something like this is our soul telling us that yes, we can do this. So move forward. There's waiting some bigger things out there for you.
I
And then just
agree.
follow,
And
you
you know
know.
what? We work, we facilitate and champion and help so many women entrepreneurs. And there's many who are struggling to get clients, who are struggling to break through, who're struggling to level up. Um, we're facing back-to-back disruption for women. We went through the pandemic, which was classified as a she session because it affected so many more women than men. The one that we did, the one that we did, the prior recession affected more men. This time it affected more women. And now we're seeing this renaissance in technology that women we're always trying to figure out uh, leveraging social media, leveraging networks, trying to get out there, stretching budgets, like doing what we can, right? But the reality is this: for every woman that is not succeeding, there are many that are. And we're not smarter than anybody else, and we're not, aside from the fact that we happen to be Latin, we're as smart as anybody else. That's why we do peer mentorship at Powerful Women Today, because we're all ninjas at something that the other one isn't, right?
Mhm.
I think we need to stop feeling sorry for ourselves.
Yeah.
Stop feeling sorry for ourselves and stop worrying about the guilt. And I know it's easier said than done. Listen, we all go through our gloominess, right? And we're all back to the point that Gina was saying, I oftentimes try to shelter my son from anything that is occurring in my business that is, either a setback or something that is just normal in the course of doing business, but it's still upsetting, still, whatever. And I try to shelter him because he's just such a conscientious person that he worries, right? And I don't want him to worry. He's got his own problems to worry about. He doesn't need mine. But what Gina just said, they also need to see that, you know what? We're not just some robotic dispensers of all things good, right? That we also face challenges and that we also thrive through them and figure them out, right? So in modeling the full cycle, I think is extremely important. And I
Mhm.
think as women, we also need to start, and this is, I'm not telling anybody how to live their lives, I'm just from what I observe, right? The only person judging you is yourself, because we're
Mhm.
all so busy trying to stay afloat that we don't have time to check you out and judge you. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And especially in communities like Powerful Women Today, where we're really here to just lock arms and, give each other strength, right?
Mhm.
And leverage each other's gifts and each other's networks and each other's voices and each other's energy. Because there's
Mhm.
many times we're exhausted and we come into the meetings and it's just like, after you're done, I don't know about you guys, but I'm fully re-energized. And I remember meetings where we had masterminds coming up, and somebody said a joke, and we were all just exhausted and began to just giggle like idiots. And for like ongoing, it was almost like the whole hour that we had like silly gas, and we were all just laughing our heads off. But you know what? That's what we needed.
Yeah.
Non-judgment, right? And just giving ourselves a break. So if you're a mom, an entrepreneur, an executive, ask for it. If you need accommodations, ask for them. And if someone is, holding you back, then challenge them. Challenge and say, hey, you know what? What is the criteria for determining these? Right? And if you're afraid of losing your job, sweetheart, if you're not getting ahead, you've already lost your job. You're just putting in time, right?
But you touched on something really important, Carolina. Ask for it. Don't be silent. Us, for some reason, women, we tend to, oh, I don't want to cause waves. I don't want to have a conflict. Oh, I'll just, you're unhappy. But you said it perfect. Ask for it. Because that's the only way you're going to know where you stand.
And sometimes we settle because we don't want the fight. Because we're already dealing with so much. The last thing I need is to tip another apple cart, right?
But that's not only in business, it's in your home. How many of us are guilty? I mean, let's face it, ladies, how many of us are guilty with I was so proud, Miriam, of your husband. Please tell him bravo for, taking care of it. That's amazing. But that's good on you, because really many women will not ask their husbands for help. They will not confront their husbands, even though they're unhappy. So again, sometimes we blame the husbands, and I see Yusuf's question. Sometimes we blame the husband. Sometimes it's not the husband's fault. Sometimes we're allowing that to happen. We're allowing that. So we go back to what Carolina mentioned. You must ask. Now, again, what Yusuf said, the best way, I think, Miriam's husband showed us a perfect example how husbands can support their mompreneurs and their wives when they're working. And that is the best way, to just be open and flexible, knowing that if you're both working, you're not only working outside of your home, but then you're both working inside your home, taking care of the kids, getting in the kitchen, washing whatever. You're both doing.
You're in this together.
It's a collaboration.
You're in this together.
And it's 2023, right? So like Gina said, if you're both working, which is in most of the households the case nowadays, if both are working, then we can also split the duties.
Exactly.
There's somebody once, so there's two super moms that I knew when my son was growing up, and they had such a different, more modern, attitude towards it all. And at the time, I didn't understand it. I'm going to be honest and say I'm not sure I was judging it, but it was one of those good for you, but in such a foreign way, right? And one used to tell me, you know what? We all work until nobody works. Right? We take all the chores that need to be done, and we all work until nobody works. And she stood her ground. And the other one, which I thought it was a riot at the time, she had a son too, and he's grown up to be a fabulous man. He's not even a young man; they're men. And she, from the time he was little, they all used to take turns cooking dinner. And they were all responsible. So he was like 8 or 10, right? And there was a night that he was responsible for dinner to feed the family, right? And it didn't matter if they were going to eat, peanut butter and jam that night. The point was the little guy was responsible to take care of the family that night. And I remember, like, just foreign concepts, right? Like, and she stuck to her guns. It's like, if there was a list for groceries pinned to the fridge, and if they individually, the husband and the child, did not write down what they needed, even if she noticed that was missing, if it was not on the list, she wouldn't buy it.
Yeah. And that's a good lesson to learn, which let me go back to what Gina said before, that she wanted her son to be involved in her business, to know what was going on. I think this is very important that you really involve your children in those things, because obviously when they're too little, you can't, right? But when they have a certain age and they understand what's going on, you also want to show them that life is not always a straight line to the top, or what business is, right? We always see that line that goes straight to the top. But how does it actually really look? It looks like this. It's an up and down. It's a slow way up and down, upwards. And this is what we really want to teach our children, that even though it's not going so well, this is totally normal. Um, I also teach the universal laws of nature, and this is
Ooh.
basically a law. It
Mhm.
is the law of rhythm. It needs to go up and then it needs to go down a little bit. So whenever you have something happening in your life or in your business that's not working out, this is totally fine, because after that little dent that you might have, your life is going up again. So what you want to teach your children is, if something is not working out, it's okay. Keep pushing through, focus on where you want to go, and then it will come. Your time will come that you will succeed. And this is what I had to learn. And I wish that my parents would have taught me that, because it's just an experience. If something does not work out, okay, it's a lesson learned, keep moving forward.
Keep moving.
And if it's a success, well, let's keep celebrating.
Yeah. And how to approach challenge is so important. I see it, like I
Mhm.
said, with my son, and we've had our challenges as a family, his dad, myself. And for me, it's so important that he understands what you just mentioned. It's life.
Mhm.
Life sometimes is great. Life sometimes is not so great.
Mhm.
It's how you
Approach it.
put yourself forward, whether you're up or you're down. How are you responding? What are you learning? What are your takeaways from that? And how are you going to move forward?
Mhm.
This is
Exactly.
where I think is crucial that kids understand at an early age. And even when you said you have young kids, if you have a business, I have moms that they have kind of a mailing business. They have their 5-year olds or 4-year olds helping them stuff papers in the
So
envelopes.
cute.
Yeah.
Even at that tender age, that's a good mom. That's a mom teaching their kids, getting them involved in the business because they're learning to help mom, and they love it, by the way. Kids love it when they feel like they're being helpful and
Until
helping
they don't. And then come the teenage years. But the good thing
mom.
is that
True.
they
True.
pass. They do come back after a little while.
Yes.
You know what? This is so, so important. If you are, I was fortunate enough that during, my son's formative years, I did have a partner to help, raise him. And I was not an entrepreneur, right? So a lot of the variables and a lot of the play, and I'm not a special needs, mom, which adds another layer
Mhm.
of intelligence, emotional intelligence, and empathy, and I cannot even begin to think of that, of what it requires. But you know what is if you are a mom, if you're a mom thinking of starting your business, if you're a mom that lost your job and you're thinking, I need better hours, or somebody who's been recalled back to work, right, at a physical location after being home for the last, few years. You need to speak to Lucia Cantor, who's an employment attorney, one of our own. But next to that is also reach out to a mentor like Miriam and Gina, people that have gone through it, people that know what it's like to run, start, maintain, grow a business while in the early years of being a parent. And it's not just moms, there's also single dads, there's also dads, right? And we were sharing in the green room that right now there seems to be, I don't know. I don't even know what it is, but it seems that everything that was a source of refuge and a source of strength, such as mothers and fathers and churches and schools and in any kind of sense of compass, if we must say it, right? There's this big erosion, this big fight against it. And there was a news article that that had a picture of a school that had one of those sandwich boards, the ones that are mobile. They're big. They're big signs that you rent and kind of put the words. And it said, "If only life came with instructions," right? And then he said, "Oh wait, it does. It's called a mom." And I saw, and I laughed, right? I'm like, yes, that is about right. And then I read this story, which was that people in that neighborhood, and I was surprised that it was actually here in Canada, which normally we don't see, or I have not been aware of it, which is quite possible, that the community complained about the sign. So much so that because it called for a mom, a celebration of moms.
Mhm.
And they put the sign up for Mother's Day, right? Leading up to Mother's Day. It's not like they had that year round. But enough people complained about it that it was excluding a large number of the population that either, do not have moms or are not moms or do not have a good relationship with their mom, all of that. And all I kept thinking is how sad that we're doing inclusivity by exclusivity, by exclusion, right? Inclusivity by exclusion. And in being a mom, whether you have a mom, a mom, you're married to a mom, you're partner with a mom, you're a same-sex mom, it just doesn't matter. The experience of motherhood or mothering someone, nurturing, bringing them, teaching them everything you've got, right, is one of the purest forms of love. So the fact that we would question that and we would challenge it and have someone take that down, it just fueled my fire.
Yeah.
I'm glad we're doing so much to celebrate Mother's Day, just like we do for, empowerment in March and how we do to fight violence against women in the fall. And that is what we stand for at Powerful Women Today, the emotional and financial empowerment and independence of women, unapologetically.
Yeah. And I want to add to what Miriam, you know, be I want all the moms out there, value yourself. Even if you're not a mompreneur, even if you're a stay-at-home mom, you have one of the most, if not the most important job. You're the CEO of your home.
Exactly.
And please, more than anything, I would like everyone who's listening to us today is to really understand the value that you bring, not only to your home by raising your kids, because your kids, the ripple effects, you don't know what your kids were going to be doing in the future.
Right.
And you had something to do with that, with their upbringing. So please understand you have so many talents. You're the CEOs, you budget, you have so many, you're creative. It's amazing the talents I think moms have. And I just really want everyone, every mom that's listening to us out there, we value you, we see you, you are
We're here to
amazing.
champion you.
You are amazing, and we celebrate you.
Yeah. You have a question, Gina. It's on the prompt. Switching from full-time mother to a dual role as mother and entrepreneur. What are the motherhood skills that we know there are many that fueled your entrepreneurial mindset?
I think for me is what we already had been discussing. I think the role modeling, what my son is now seeing, my efforts, then not giving up, even though sometimes things may be, um, a struggle, then not giving up. That role modeling for me is huge for my son, for him to understand this is part of life. It will happen in your business, it will happen in your life, with your relationships. But how do you move forward? Learning from those experiences. I always say, you learn more from what went wrong than what went right. You always end up learning more.
Mhm.
And how you really take advantage of that learning experience and move forward. So, and of
Mhm.
course, getting them involved in your business, helping them understand from a young age. That would be the answer to my question. Getting them involved from a young age
Really.
in your business.
Miriam, same question to you as we come to the top of our segment.
I actually wanted to add real quick before I forget it, what Gina said about she appreciates all the mothers. I want to add to that.
Mhm.
Everybody that is listening today, I want you also to know that you are worth it to take care of yourself because you need to be in the energy, in the really you need to have the strength to do both, to be the mom, to be there for your kids, and to be the entrepreneur in your business. So do not feel guilty when you take time for yourself. If you want to go and get a massage, do it. If
Mm,
you want to go to get that to do that yoga class, do it. It is totally fine. Your husband can be here for the kids and watch them for an hour. Your kids won't miss anything. If you just refuel your energy during those 60 minutes that you're not available for them. And it is so important that we really do this for us
Mhm.
because when we are good, we can give more and then our kids are good as well. Very important.
If we are good, we can give. We can be better. We
yeah.
can show up better.
Mhm.
And there's a point of reconciliation. I did not have the best relationship with my mother. Not that there was anything wrong, or we were just not two birds of a feather. And actually, most of my empowerment and wisdom and encouragement came from my father. So I have a very, this is why Powerful Women Today is not a feminist, against the patriarchy kind of organization. To the contrary, it is a celebration of, two equal, souls being their best, showing up their best. But
Mhm.
we do have to remember that we're all a product of what we know. We're all a product of what informs us. So even if we did not have the best relationship with our own mother or the best role modeling, one of our very own colleagues, Dr. Suggs, she's elevated conflict resolution to conflict reconciliation. And also in letting go and forgiving and accepting that, you know what, they were probably just trying their best. And in that letting go, you are not the mother that you grew up with if it was not a good experience.
Mhm.
You've brought in a pattern interrupt, in that, like them, we are just trying to do our best for our kids, right? And so if you know of an entrepreneur that is a mompreneur, that is a woman, especially a single parent, a single mom, single dad, please support them, because they are somebody's entire world. And we all need to support each other.
Yes.
Ladies, I cannot imagine spending a better Mother's Day than with the two of you sharing such powerful message. Miriam, if you could please put in the comment the information about your upcoming
Mhm.
summit, where because it's coming up, and we'll put our own information. We'll connect with Gina, connect with Miriam, and subscribe to our magazine, because you get to hear and experience more of all of our mentor experts, genius and insights, and just hearts of gold. They're the best of the best, right? So thank you, everybody, for spending this time with us, and may you have a wonderful Mother's Day whenever you celebrate it. If you check our newsletter, apparently it even goes into December in some places in the world. So every day ought to be Mother's Day and Father's Day. So have a good one. Thank you. Until
Thank you. Bye.
time.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Empowering women on a global scale. This has been Powerful Women Today with Carolina Billings. To learn more about how you can join and transform your life and the lives of women everywhere with professional speaking, publishing, podcasting, and web TV, visit powerfulwomentoday.com. Remember to subscribe to this podcast on iTunes, YouTube, or wherever you like to listen and watch your podcasts.